old friends again after a long time, and new friends as well. Welcome to you all. And secondly, I want to express my astonishment at the wonderful speech that Sripad Bhagavad Maharaj just made. I never expected such wonder. He's got to be one of the very best sannyasis of Srila Gurudev, no doubt. Empowering you and giving you Gurudev, and giving you the way that instead of just being inspired by his words, though they may be just repeating Gurudev's, he's giving you Gurudev himself in thousands of times over, because there are thousands of audios and videos on the archive hard drive. I just wanted to mention, since he talked about reading the books and hearing the archive lectures and videos, I would like to share how Srila Gurudev explained how to read and how to hear, so that we get the most from that. He said, whenever you're reading, you have a book, and before reading, you go like this. Just like when going to Vrindavan, when going to any holy place in Vrindavan, we take the dust and put the dust on our head, so that we can think properly in the right perspective, on our eyelids so that we can see correctly, on our tongue so that our whole body becomes filled with reality, and on our heart so that we can feel, our soul can feel instead of just our imaginative thoughts. Similarly, when before reading any book, he said, take the book like this, and then like that. And then say, "O Prabhu, you are not a book. You are," and then depending on what book it is, for example, let's say it's Gopi Geet, which we have in the back table. We say, "O Prabhu, you are Sukadeva Goswami yourself, and Maharaj Pariksit yourself. And I am sitting here on the banks of the Ganges, personally hearing your questions and answers." Or, "You are directly Srimati Radhika and the Gopis, and here I am, sitting on the bank of the Jamuna, personally hearing you. You are Gurudev yourself, because you spoke these lectures. You are the whole Guru Parampara. You are Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur yourself, because Gurudev is mainly speaking from his commentaries and Jiva Goswami's commentaries. So please, all of you, shower your mercy upon me, so that I can understand fully what I'm about to hear or read, and so that I become full of doubts in the bogus reality of the material world and material senses, and so that I become free from all doubts in your reality. Then, suppose I'm reading on an iPad, which is not a book. So then I would just change that to, "Oh Prabhu, you are not a PDF." Or if I'm listening to an audio lecture, then, or a video, "Oh Prabhu, you are not a sound file and you are not a video. You are personally," and then like that. "Please shower your mercy upon me." So that's how to read and how to hear. Srila Gurudev said there are thousands of big Sanskrit scholars, scholars of the Vedic literatures, who can recite entire Vedic literatures by heart. And yet, Gurudev said they come to him to inquire how to understand what they're reciting. He said, "I have never gone to university and studied these things, Sanskrit and literature, but because I pray like this when I read, therefore I have no doubt. He said, if you don't pray like this when you read and hear, you'll be full of doubts about what you're reading and about Siddhanta. But if you pray like this, you'll be free from all doubts. And that's why they come to me, Srila Gurudev said. So I just wanted to share that. Now, what this is that we're showing you now is a CD. Unfortunately, it's only for PC, so I hope that many of you have PCs instead of Macs. This is a CD of practically all the art that Srila Prabhupada did by using my hands. About 200 paintings, as well as about 12 paintings that Srila Gurudev did. When I finished the painting of Sevakunj, which you all know, I think, I asked Gurudev why it took so long. It took 5 months, and that was the first time a painting had ever taken so long. So I asked, why did it take so long? So Gurudev said, because I had to push my will through your will. And when he asked me to first paint that painting, which he said is not a painting, but it is Vigraha, it is deity, it is reality, he said, can you paint my heart? And this was consistent through all the paintings that we did for him. And then a team of us, under his direction, under Gurudev's direction, did the line drawings, about 20 or so line drawings, and about 40 or so bas-reliefs. So this CD is, we hope you'll take it at the end along with the books and hard drive and posters. It's a flash presentation. If any of you have children, it's the best way easiest way and most fun way for children to learn the philosophy. If you're preaching in a college, for example, you can use it as part of your lecture presentation. There's 2 ways to go. Let's say we're on, let's say anything. Gornatai, there's 2 ways that it can be shown on the screen. That is with the description, or by clicking a different button, you get just the picture enlarged, so that if you're speaking to others and showing a presentation, it's just you and the picture. Then there are 3 sections of the paintings. And that is, first prophets? Okay. Oh yeah, if Gurudev's works, it's paintings, drawings, and bas-reliefs. Also with a history, very interesting and funny and exciting history of how the bas-reliefs were created by Gurudev through the hands of devotees who had never even painted before, like the Santadevi Dadi, and never again. So then of Prabhupada's work, there's Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So today, also simultaneously showing how the CD works, we're going to go, as Sripad Bhagavat Maharaj mentioned, going to go to the Chaitanya Charitamrita because this is a Bengali temple, and we are grateful to Tapas and his team for allowing us to all be here together. And since I mentioned the word be here together, I just wanted to also express my astonishment at what a wonderful Sangha this New York, New Jersey Sangha is. It's very, very amazing. I was watching you all, simultaneously listening to the bhajans and simultaneously watching you all, to see the beautiful respect and love and affection that you all have for each other, regardless, and I was watching Maharaj too, whether one is a sannyasi or a little baby or this guru's disciple or that guru's disciple, so much mutual love and respect. It was very, very exemplary. Thank you very much for inspiring me in that way. So first, before we go to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because there are not so many, but a few new people here. Is there anybody here who is new to Krishna consciousness? Just a very, very few. I'm not even new yet. We'll just quickly show an introduction to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So, this is birth, the lady in white. The skeleton in black is death. The 8, lying down 8, is an infinity sign, and the universe inside the infinity sign is the innumerable universes through which we, the spirit soul, have been transmigrating in various species of life since the beginning of time. Then we see from Bhagavad Gita that the baby takes birth and continues in childhood, old age, death. And where does it go? Oh, by the way, just behind the infinity sign, there is the sun, but it's covered over by the clouds. The sun represents us, the soul, covered by the clouds of Maya, or illusion, the deluding potency that is forcing us to consider ourselves this body, this mind, this material intelligence, and false ego. Then the ocean represents the ocean of birth and death. And within that ocean is the 8,400,000 species of life, beginning from bacteria and then aquatics, insects, mammals, animals that are close to human beings, the human being. And interesting enough, you see that the human being, the man, has his back towards us, and he's dipping his foot in the water, as we do before considering jumping in. See how cold it is. So he's dipping his foot into the ocean of birth and death. Although it has taken him many, many billions of births to arrive in the human species, still he's so foolish that he's looking to test how much enjoyable is the material world. In this connection, just before going to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I want to share a sort of sad story that Srila Gurudev told. There's a man, a blind man, and he somehow ended up in this tunnel. And it was a very long tunnel. In fact, the tunnel was 8,400,000 miles long. And then there was a doorway out, but he couldn't see the doorway. And this tunnel was full of fear, anger, loneliness, greed, envy, shock, lamentation, hankering. So the only way that he could find the doorway was by feel. So he had his cane in one hand, and he was feeling the wall of the tunnel with the other hand. As fate would have it, he got an itching just before he came to the door. So he started scratching, and he finished scratching just after the door. And then he had again go through the 8,400,000 species. So if we miss this opportunity, and Gurudev said in Badger that even if you have taken Diksha, you can again become an animal by not following the principles of Krishna consciousness. So, with that happy note, we'll go on to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes.
There's a lot of people at the door.
Oh yes, please come in. There's so much room in the front.
4 people here, and 4 or 5 people here. If anyone else comes in, it will be too crowded. So please come in, make way.
It's a symbol of birth also. So it's fresh spring.
Everyone scoot in this way so people can come in.
There's still a lot more room over there.
And over
Plenty of
here.
room. Feel free to step right in. Welcome.
And devotees can kindly leave some kind of aisle so that
Yeah, we also need to make the offering. We need a little aisle when we do the offering.
Montaji? There's plenty. Yeah.
So, because we're here at this Bengali temple, we've chosen the paintings that we did under Srila Prabhupada's direction, paintings of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is the 5-in-1 absolute truth, Panchatattva. When I did the very first painting of Panchatattva, Srila Prabhupada said this was in his first ISKCON temple at 26 2nd Avenue in New York. And there was the front altar where Srila Prabhupada sat on the Vyasasana, and then the side altar with the Panchatattva. And the way that Arati began, the way Prabhupada began Arati in his mission, is that after his lecture, first there was kirtan, then his lecture, and then a second kirtan. And during the second kirtan, some devotees would dance around in a circle in front of Srila Prabhupada, and others would line up to this Panchatattva painting, and others would be in the second half of the temple, to the back, and there would be one votive candle in the middle of a large tray, and they would take turns doing arati like that to the Panchatattva painting. So here's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the non-different from Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, who the Vedic literatures ascertain to be the absolute truth, one without a second absolute truth. So he is the source of all incarnations, all worlds, all living beings. And then Nityananda Prabhu in blue, who is non-different from Baladev himself, the first expansion of Krishna, the original, complete, undivided principle of Guru, the source of all spiritual strength, as Guru is. All bona fide spiritual masters are expansions of Nityananda Balaram. And he serves Krishna, serves Mahaprabhu in all the 5 relationships, particularly 4 relationships. As a brother, as a friend, as a parent, as the land for Krishna to play on, as eternal existence, as Krishna's flute and other paraphernalia, as the houses he manifests, as all these things. And even in conjugal relationship, amorous relationship, he manifests as Ananga Manjari, Srimati Radhika's younger sister. Then Advaita Acharya, with the beard, who is none other than Mahavishnu, who is Krishna's expansion of expansion of expansion of expansion of expansion, who breathes in and out innumerable universes from the pores of his body, and who further expands into Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, from whose navel Lord Brahma is born, who creates all the different worlds and bodies of the beings, the different caste systems, sages, demigods, and also he expands as the super soul in everyone's heart, from whom all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness come. Then Gadadhar, now in purple, who is none other than Srimati Radhika herself, just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Krishna himself. So, in order to, as the chief, as the supreme, complete, intrinsic power of Sri Krishna, and therefore as the complete source of all Krishna's pleasure, if it looks like anyone else is giving Krishna pleasure, God pleasure, it's because of her power upon that living being. So as the soul pleasure potency of Sri Krishna, Srimati Radhika manifests in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes as Gadadhar Prabhu, who serves in so many capacities. Radhika wants to help Chaitanya Mahaprabhu play her role, because Krishna appeared in this world in order to spread spontaneous love of God, and also to taste for himself what is it like, what is Radharani's love like, what kind of pleasure does she feel, what is it in me that she relishes even more than I do. I can't even taste myself like she does. So in order to experience this, Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in order to help him, because up in Krishna Loka, the supreme abode of the Lord, Krishna once asked Radha, I would like to please borrow your mood and complexion. And she said, okay, you can do that, but still I'm going to have to come and help you to experience it. Also, my intimate Sakis, Lalita and Vishaka, will come and help you as Rai Ramananda and Swarup Damodar, and I will also come as Gadadhar. So, in order to correct Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he makes a mistake or doesn't get it right, not literally, but Gadadhar Pandit twists his ears. How? For example, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first came back from Gaya and was initiated by Sri Ishvara Puripad, he manifested ecstatic symptoms in the mood of Srimati Radhika that no one in Navadvip had seen before. For example, he was singing Varaha Vidanata Varavapu Karnayo Karnikaram Bibradavasam Kanakakapisam Vaijayanti Chamalam Randrana Venu Radara Sudayat Apurayana Gopa Vrindai Vrindaranya Swapataramanam Pravishadagita Kirti. In the mood of Srimati Radhika and the Gopis, singing their Venu Geet, which Srila Gurudev said is one of the best verses in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam for meditating upon Krishna, describing him as he's entering into the forest. They're in their homes, and they're seeing with their eyes of emotions, of transcendental emotions. That Krishna wears a peacock feather, his turban is full of lilies and lotuses and new sprigs of mangoes, and his peacock feather is just like a rainbow. Krishna is just like a cloud. His yellow garments are just like lightning. And he wears a karnikar flower on his ear, very debonair, making him look still more beautiful and alluring. So he was singing like this, and tears were falling from his eyes. Tears were standing on an ecstasy, falling and faint. But still it wasn't good enough. So from behind the curtain, Gadadhar Prabhu would do the same thing, being Radha herself, in a much more deep way to teach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also in Puri, when Mahaprabhu left Bengal and went to Jagannath Puri, he put Gadadhar Pandit, in charge of the Tota Gopinath temple. And regularly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go there to take darshan of Gopinath, who he ultimately merged into at the time of his disappearance. And also to have a class, not give a class, but take a class, hear a class, with his other associates from Gadadhar Pandit, who would be describing the Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly the verses of Srimati Radhika, like when she's speaking to the bumblebee, or when she's singing Venu Geet. And then Gadadhar Pandit would explain those verses from the point of view of Radha, so that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the one who came to understand her moods, would understand them directly from her. So that's Gadadhar Prabhu, and Srivas Pandit, who is none other than Narada Muni himself, who flies around without a spaceship throughout all the universes, spiritual and material, playing his veena and chanting Hare Krishna and teaching us Krishna consciousness. Okay. Then, this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth celebration. And that's Mother Sachi in her lap. Mother Sachi, he's in her lap. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami appeals to us in his Manushiksha, always meditate on Sachi Nandan, Sachi Sutta, the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, as absolutely non-different from Nandisarupati Sutatve of Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, covered with the ecstatic moods of Srimati Radhika. So here, Advaita, who we mentioned in the previous painting, there's Advaita Acharya's wife, that is Sita Devi, and when she sees the newborn baby, not only her, but all the demigods from the heavenly planets who are in control of the air, the heat, the drought, the sun, they also appeared on that very spot to witness the appearance of the Lord. So Srimati Sachi Devi, as you see in the little puffed bubble above her head, when she sees Mahaprabhu, she's thinking, this is directly Krishna. Sita Thakurani? Then, very easy, you just press one of the boxes and it goes to another pastime in Navadvip. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started the first civil disobedience demonstration. It wasn't Gandhi, it wasn't the New Yorkers picketing against Vietnam like me in 1965. But it, what? I'm sorry? Occupied.
This space over here.
Right, they occupied Shankazi's house. So the devotees, we showed Srivas Thakur before. So at his house, in his courtyard, the devotees were, as usual, ecstatically chanting Sankirtan, the Hare Krishna mantra, which is the religious principle of this age of Kali, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. And Kasi, in red there, he's a Muslim magistrate, and he was envious of the devotees. So he had his men go to the place of Srivas and break one of the mridangas and threaten that if we find you doing Sankirtan, just as you all were doing just a few minutes ago, if we find you doing Sankirtan one more time, we're going to take your house and throw it in the Ganges. The houses weren't so big in those days. It wasn't so hard. So the devotees became afraid, and then Mahaprabhu encouraged them, no, take your torches, and take your men, take your mridangas, 100,000 men, and let's do Nagar Sankirtan all throughout Navadvip, and end up in the Kazi's house. They were also told, why are you chanting so loudly? Is your God deaf or something? Nobody gets to sleep at night. There should be, first of all, a curfew, that you can't chant after 10. And second of all, you should only chant Allah, Hoda, the Muslim God. So they arrived at the Kazi's house, and as you see, this is Nityananda Prabhu in the back. First generally we were supposed to ask Prabhupada, like in the sketch stage, is this sketch okay? And then if he would say, yes, it's okay, then we would go on with the painting. But I did the painting first, and then I asked Prabhupada, is it okay that I made Nityananda Prabhu with a mridanga? And he said no. So as you can see, his hands are out, but there was no more mridanga. So they were starting, as you can see all the rubble on the ground, they were starting to smash his house and his garden. But Mahaprabhu said, no, he's like my uncle. And so he called him out of the house, and Mahaprabhu said, why is it that in your religion you kill and eat cows? He said, it's not actually part of our scriptures or religion. I don't know why we do it. It's just like a tradition. And Mahaprabhu explained to him that the cow is our mother. The mother gives milk. Is it very good gratitude that to repay your mother you take her blood? Srila Prabhupada also said, when I first joined him at 26 2nd Avenue, he said, you have to learn the art of taking the blood of the cow without killing the cow. And how is that? Milk. I was in the beginning of when I was first meeting Prabhupada, and I was first going down from my house in the Bronx to Prabhupada's temple. Once I was on the train, and a young man sat next to me. I was about 19. A young man sat next to me, and he said, what's wrong with eating the cows? And I didn't know at that time. So when I arrived at Prabhupada's temple, I went upstairs and asked him. He said, the cow is doing so much for society. What are you doing? Okay, next.
It's not going to work. Yeah, you got to come on, please. Mataji, please.
Now generally, in Navadvip, Bengal, Mahaprabhu would, because Navadvip is non-different from Vrindavan, Lord Krishna's supreme abode, which has more opulence than Vaikuntha, than Dwarka, than Mathura, but it's covered with so much sweetness that the opulence is not tasted. Even when Krishna would lift Govardhan Hill, still everybody thought, the boys thought, we have to help Krishna to lift this mountain by holding it up with our sticks. And the gopis challenged Govardhan, if you fall 1 inch on Krishna, by our glance, we're going to turn you into powder. And Mother Yasoda was so much in anxiety that the mountain would fall on her son. And her husband thought, it's because of my austerities to Lord Narayan that actually Narayan is holding up this mountain, not my son. So similarly in Chaitanya Lila, in Navadvip, although most of the pastimes were in like friends or like relatives, and they didn't know at all that he was God, sometimes he would exhibit his godhood. And here's one occasion when he's at the house of Murari Gupta, and he's showing him that he is none other than Lord Krishna's incarnation, Lord Varaha, who, when, because of demoniac influence, this very earth planet that we're standing on now fell down into the bottom of the universe, into the hellish regions, into the waters. So Lord Varaha lifted up the earth, killed the demon and lifted up the earth on his tusks. So here, Mahaprabhu is becoming Varaha to show Murari Gupta that he himself is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we asked Prabhupada exactly how to do it. That is, do we just show Lord Chaitanya? With what? How do we show the earth? And Prabhupada explained, no, show Mahaprabhu himself turning into the big boar with a water pot on his tusks to represent the earth. I don't know.
Because the earth is made of water?
Must have been easily available. Huh? So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Guru Varam. He's the Supreme Guru. He taught all of our great acharyas, who in turn are teaching us through their books and through Srila Gurudev's books, through, as Maharaj mentioned, through Srila Gurudev's sound files and videos. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, we'll say this isn't what's happening. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching Srila Sanatana Goswami, one of the six Goswamis and direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he's teaching him first about the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, about the powers of Krishna, about the sweetness of Krishna, about the rules and regulations of entering Krishna consciousness, called Vaidhi Bhakti. That is, when we don't have spontaneous love for Krishna, and our activities in service are not impelled by that love and affection, before that beautiful stage, they are impelled by the injunctions of the Shastras in two ways. Number one, it's your duty to serve the Supreme Lord. You are just like the hand, and the Supreme Lord Krishna is just like the whole body. The hand serves the whole body. It puts the food in the stomach, and then the hand also gets nourished. If the hand wants to grab the food by itself, it would starve, and it wouldn't do any good to the rest of the parts of the body. But by feeding the stomach, all the organs are nourished, and the hand is nourished. Similarly, by serving the Supreme Lord, you benefit, and everyone you come in contact with benefits. Okay, that's duty. That's given to me by Shastra. Then, the other is fear, impelled by the Shastra. If you don't do this, you'll go to hell. Just like the fear in the first painting. You might be interested to know, Srila Prabhupada told the story of how we need fear sometimes if we don't have the natural love and affection which impels us to serve. We need fear to free us from a greater fear. You want to tell that story to something? There was a Christian priest, and he came to a mining town, and he told the miners, "You should all worship Jesus Christ." They thought, why? Is he one of the minors? What's his number anyway? No, you don't understand. He's not a minor. He's God himself. He's the Son of God. Well, why should we worship him? Well, if you don't worship him, then you'll go to hell. Okay, well, what's hell like? Well, it's dark, it's dank, no air, very uncomfortable. And they said, well, it's like that for us every day anyway. We work in the mines. So we had to think. Oh, yes. There's no newspapers there. No newspapers. So they decided to worship Jesus Christ. So sometimes we need a smaller fear to save us from the bigger fear of actually being it. So at the end of the discussion of the rules and regulations, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami a quote from this story. That is, Narada Muni saw a hunter named Mrigarari, and he saw the results of Mrigarari's activities. Half-dead animals flapping in pain. So Narada Muni, being a pure devotee of the Lord, and our Gurudev has the same power, because he's more intimately connected with the Lord, even than Narada Muni. Can you imagine that? He twanged on his veena, and all the animals came to full life and ran away. And then the hunter saw this, and he wasn't too appreciative. So he said, why did you do that? That's my livelihood. So Narada gave him a vision. He threw some drops of water from his kamandalu pot on the hunter, and the hunter was able to see his future lives. That in all of his future lives, all those varieties of animals that he killed were all now attacking, killing, and eating him, standing on line. I'm next, I'm next, I'm next. So then after this, the hunter became afraid, but he was still a little concerned. He said, well, if I lose my livelihood, how will I eat? Are you folks comfortable standing in the back, or would you like to sit? Okay.
There's room here.
There's a lot of room here. You can come.
Welcome, join
You can
us.
sit here.
Join us.
Come in. More people may come, so come in.
Yeah, devotees, you can please move a little forward. Maybe they're hesitating to come nowadays.
Jai Jai.
Please. Devotees, step in.
Good.
How much time should I continue so I can know how quickly to go through the paintings?
Go.
You have 108 minutes.
Because I know you all need to travel to get back home tomorrow's work day. Okay, I'll try to hurry. So then he said, if you just chant Hare Krishna with your wife, then automatically Krishna will take care of all your needs. So the hunter did that, and all the people of the neighborhood brought them more food than they can take. So they offered the food and distributed it as prasadam to all the villagers. So then after some time, Narada came back, and he saw the hunter. He brought his friend Parvat Muni, and the hunter was running towards his guru. But as he was running, he saw so many ants on the road. So now his character from chanting and worshipping had changed so much that he didn't even want to step on the ants. So he took his cloth and moved the ants so that they could be protected, and then ran to his guru. So Narada Muni told his friend Parvat that just see if somebody becomes a devotee, what wonderful qualities they get automatically. Okay, now we come to Sarvabhauma. Here is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Well, we'll skip it, but we won't skip it. We'll just show it to you. Just go in order, and I'll just say what it is. This is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Sanatana Goswami, and same Sanatana Goswami that we just spoke about. And we would have to ask Srila Prabhupada, like, what did this person wear? Mahaprabhu wore a saffron dhoti, how short or long was it? And Prabhupada would write, it's up to his knees. And Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami would wear white, short dhotis, but it wouldn't be exactly white, but it would be grayish because they would be washing their dhotis in the Jamuna, so it would turn grayish. So here, Sanatana Goswami, who's a great scholar, is surrendering to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his straw in his teeth, which is a sign of humility. And Mahaprabhu is blessing him. And Sanatana Goswami is saying, I'm very famous as a big scholar of so many different languages, Sanskrit, Farsi, Urdu, so many languages. Very erudite scholar, but the problem is I don't even know who I am. So could you please tell me who I am really and why I'm suffering the threefold miseries of this material world? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately blessed him by saying, Jiver Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nistadas. You are the eternal servant of Krishna, simultaneously one with and different from him, and you are his marginal potency. Okay. Just as a spark of a flame, you are sparks of the entire fire of Krishna. Okay. And here is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Srila Rupa Goswami, who, we have a very beautiful verse, Shri Chaitanya Manobhistyam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Rupa Goswami, who, understanding the inner moods of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, established those moods within this world. And just as a preview to all the books we're going to show at the end, this is the speciality of the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which without Srila Rupa Goswami's mercy, and then the mercy of all of those who followed him, we would never understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or the reason for our own existence. Okay, next.
Babuji, you can sit with me.
And here, Mahaprabhu was singing very ecstatically in front of Lord Jagannath. And no one could understand the meaning of his cryptic song. But Rupa Goswami understood and wrote it down on a palm leaf. We even had to have Prabhupada tell us how big the palm leaf should be. And that it doesn't flap because it dried. We asked, how could he put it on his roof, thatch roof, because it flaps. He said when it dries, it's solid. So Prabhupada helped us with throughout all these paintings. So Rupa Goswami wrote the corresponding verse, and Mahaprabhu, right there in that previous painting, he was amazed that Rupa Goswami understood his inner mood and slapped him on the back. Congratulate him. And what is that inner mood? Here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing it himself. You can see him in the back, folding his palms. He's actually in the mood of a gopi maidservant of Srimati Radhika. This is the special gift that he came to give all the fortunate devotee, all the fortunate living entities, the gift of service to his dear most beloved Srimati Radhika. And this is the absolute pinnacle of devotion. So here Mahaprabhu is watching. He went into deep trance while he was chanting, lost his external consciousness, and is now seeing himself in Goloka Vrindavan with Krishna and Radha and the gopis, splashing and enjoying. Actually, Srila Gurudev had a whole set of Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamritas in his Almira in Mathura in 1992. And one day, I was showing Gurudev, I had this little tiny slide projector that you just look in this little 3-inch thing and you could see the pictures. So, not because I wanted to paint, but just for some relationship with Gurudev, I was showing him the paintings that I did for Prabhupada. So then he immediately stood up, went to his Almira, opened up one of the Chaitanya Charitamritas, flipped to the pictures, opened to this painting, and he said, "Did you do this painting?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Come with me." Then he took me to the next room where there was some Indian did a 3-foot Seva Kunj painting. He said, "I paid him 3,000 rupees, and I'm so unhappy with it. Radha and Krishna look so old, the proportions aren't good. Could you make a better one?" So that's how it all started. And he said, "Can you paint my heart?" Okay. Next. All right. Huh? Now we're going to jump to the paintings that we did for Srila Gurudev. And they're also available in the back at the end of the program. That reminds me, when I said the end of the program, just a little commercial break. I would like to request Kishori Mohan Prabhu and Sudevi Didi to sing the Australian tune at the end for the last kirtan. Because also when I see KK here from Badger, I'm remembering that in 1996, on Gurudev's first world tour, it was his last program. It wasn't in Badger, but it was in the next place, Oakland or someplace like that. Huh? San Francisco, right. And so the three of them were there. So he had Kishori Mohan and Sudevi lead us all in the Australian tune of Hare Krishna. He calls it the Australian tune, but it's actually a Bengali tune. And so they were singing, KK was crying, and then every few minutes, Gurudev would interrupt them and tell how we should be meditating. So now you also know, for when they lead us in the singing, how we should be meditating while we're singing the song. So one time, when he interrupted, he said, "You can think of this. The gopis are searching for Krishna when Krishna left them in the rasa dance, and they're fainting and walking and singing, and they're asking all the creatures in the forest, 'Have you seen Krishna? Have you seen Krishna?' And obviously nobody would answer. The tree didn't answer, the creepers didn't answer, the deer didn't answer. So they imagined some reason why they're not answering. Like when the tree didn't answer, they said, well, that's probably because he's a male, so he's on Krishna's side, so he's not telling us where Krishna went. When it was the creepers who didn't answer, they decided that, well, that's because the creeper is female, and when Krishna brushed by them and touched them, they became ecstatic and immediately burst out with so many flowers, and they became shy. So they're too shy to speak. And anyway, so many different reasons they were imagining. So he said, you can meditate on this. And Tulsi, Krishna probably told Tulsi not to tell us. She's very near and dear to him. Then the second time that he interrupted them, he said, you can think of this. Krishna's great friend Madhu Mangal, who in the previous picture of Panchatattva, Srivas Thakur is also Madhu Mangal, Krishna's best friend in Goloka Vrindavan, cowherd boy. And Madhu Mangal, he's a comedian, and he told Krishna, I know why everybody likes you best and not me. It's not really because of you or your personality, but because of your lightning-like garment and your peacock feather and flute. So how about if you lend them to me for a little while? So Krishna said sure, gave it to him, and then he was wearing it, but coincidentally, this was the time that Kamsa sent the Keshi demon, the giant horse demon, to go to Vrindavan and kill Krishna. So the Keshi demon had asked Kamsa, how will I know Krishna? And he said, obviously, you know the answer, peacock feather flute and the yellow garments. So now Madhu Mangal's wearing it, and this big, giant horse demon, who's as high as the clouds, comes racing in. He didn't even touch Madhu Mangal, but when he kicked up in the air, just the air blew Madhu Mangal away, far away. Fell down on the ground. Then he said, I've decided to give you back your peacock. Thank you, anyway. So now we'll go to Gurudev's paintings. I think most of you, I know most of you are familiar with them. And also, since I'm following in the footsteps, chewing the remnants of Sripad Bhagavad Maharaj's announcements, I'd like to say that I know that most of you have posters, but continuing in the route of distribution, the hard drive archives, the books and the posters, and Kishori Mohan Didi's and Sudevi Didi's CDs make the best presents for bar mitzvahs, birthdays, anniversaries, deaths, health warnings, and weddings. Rather than, suffer trying to think of what to get, and then you get socks or a vase, which nobody can really use that much. These make the very, very best presents. So if you can meditate on your whole next year, and then when you come to the tables, you can fill up your whole next year. And if you personally don't have them, then take them for yourselves. So, here we go with, Anyone? Santi's going to choose. Do you want to start with Saberton? Saberton? All right, let's go to the Manjaris. Let's go. So here are the 4 Manjaris. They are the assistants. This is, you saw Rupa Goswami, who established Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood and mission in this world. Otherwise, as our acharyas sing, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not come and manifested his moods, what would be the point of maintaining this body? There would be no use to living. And then he laments at the end that such a person as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this world, and although I sing his glories, like me earlier today, my heart does not melt. So I'm convinced that Lord Brahma, the Creator, has given me a stone in place of a heart. So this is Rupa Goswami, second from your right, and in the form of Rupa Manjari. Raghunath Das Goswami, who we quoted earlier as the author of Manashiksha, is just to her left. That is Rati Manjari. And the other two, the two ends, are their assistants. This is Vinod Manjari and any other Manjari, is what Gurudev called her. Any other Manjaris. And just as a hint, when the Sevakunj painting and the 4 Manjaris, Gurudev always worshipped them in his room, wherever he was. So when he was in Badger, he also had a Sevakunj and the Manjaris. And he offered flowers to all the Manjaris except this last one. Let's talk about the last 2 for a moment. Gurudev had to tell me what everybody was thinking, and then, so that I could pray to them. I said, I don't know how to get any of these personalities to manifest. I said, I feel, every time I'm doing a painting, I feel like I'm painting in the darkness. I never know what stroke to make next. So Gurudev said, no, you're painting by my light. But that was easier said than done. So I said, how am I going to get these? But how will all these personalities manifest? So he gave me some prayers like for Vinod Manjari, he said you can say this prayer. Tambularpana paramardana payadama visaradivi. This prayer means that I worship all the maidservants of Srimati Radhika, the Manjaris of Srimati Radhika, headed by Sri Rupa Manjari, who are always engaged in taking out Srimati Radhika for meeting Krishna at night and giving her water for drinking and washing her feet. And they are so intimate in their service to Srimati Radhika and Krishna that even where Radhika's most intimate girlfriends, like Lalita and Vishaka, are hesitant to enter, they have no hesitancy to enter. So that prayer and the prayer to Rupa Manjari, there's one prayer that he gave me to pray that Rupa Goswami prays, that when will that day come that I am guarding, they're all guarding, at least the middle two are guarding, because Radhika told them, don't let Subal Sakar, that black person, enter my kunj. In fact, I don't want to see any black at all. Whenever she's angry at Krishna, she doesn't want to see anything that's black. That is, cover your hair with white flowers. Don't even let a bee into my kunj. So, because Krishna is Sham, he's like a fresh rain cloud. So the guards, Rupa and Rati Manjaris, they would ask when Krishna would come with his cloth around his neck, which is a sign of humility, and he's coming into Radhika's kunj, they say, just a minute, if you could tell us where you came from, then we'll decide whether we want to let you in or not. So he said, well, I was on my way here, and then the maidservants of Chandravali stopped me, and they forced me to go elsewhere, and I was really trying to come here. They didn't believe a word he said, so they said, we're not interested in any black person coming in to see our Swamini, so you can go right back where you came from. So then he had to fall at their feet and beg and weep, and then they lifted him and brought him in. So that prayer from Rupa Goswami, that when will that day come that I will be your guard when you tell me that don't let that Subal Saka come into my village, and he will have to fall at my feet to enthuse me to allow him to enter. Very high prayers. Next. So this is Seva Kunj. Jai Sri? Okay, Jai Sri. This painting is called Jai Sri because one time Jai Sri from Badger was from Badger, right? But was there when I was just about finishing the painting. She said, "What's the name of the painting?" And I thought a minute and put, well, Jai Sri, because that means she's always victorious over Krishna. So here, because everybody's fully conscious in Goloka Vrindavan. Here, nobody's conscious, especially myself. But there, everybody's fully conscious and fully helpful in Radha and Krishna's pastimes. So Krishna heard from a parrot or a gopi messenger that Radhika is coming out now to Radha Kund to get some water in her pots. So Krishna just happens to be there. And he said, I see that you're carrying 2 very heavy pots. Can I help you with one? And she says, no, thank you. I'm a chaste married girl, and you're a debauchee. Don't speak to me. Why? Just to increase his enthusiasm and eagerness. Because the more one is eager, the more he can achieve his result. And the more rare that thing is, the more he becomes eager. The more it's not allowed, if it's a wonderful thing, the more he becomes eager. So this reminds me, because we'll go on to the next one and I'll show you this. All right. Because I want to tell a really great story that a very dear friend of Srila Gurudev named Srila Bharati Maharaj just shared with us a few days ago, which is that Rupa Goswami wrote one prayer, which is Tunde, loud.
Tunde tandavali ratim vitanate tundavali labhe karna krodha karamani jayate karnabhuti vyastiham cheta rangana sangini jayate sarvandriyanam krite no jane janita kiya piramite krishneti varnadvayi.
Right, so where did Rupa Goswami get this beautiful prayer from? From Srimati Radhika herself. How? Because once Krishna was absent and Radhika was feeling great separation from Krishna. So her Saki said to her, why do you bother remembering Krishna? He doesn't care about you. Why don't you just forget him? She said, actually, I want to forget him. But the problem is that when I hear his name, then when I say his name, when my tongue chants his name, I immediately desire so many tongues because of the sweetness. And when his name enters the holes of my ear, I then desire millions of ears. And when that name enters the courtyard of my heart, then it conquers all the activities of my mind, and all my senses become inert. That is, I can no longer think, I can no longer see, all my external senses stop. So just as she was singing this verse, Krishna comes along and taps her to let her know that he's here. But she didn't respond. So Krishna asked the Saki, I don't get it. Even when I'm far, far away, she knows that I'm around just because of my fragrance. Or I may light up the forest may become blue, and she knows Krishna's nearby because of his effulgence of his sapphire body. But now I'm touching her, and she doesn't even respond. What is this? What is this bhav that she's tasting? So wondering what is this bhav that she's tasting, this mood that she's tasting, Krishna decided to become Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Isn't that a beautiful story? So there she is, feeling separation. And she's thinking, what is the use of my youthful, beautiful body? What is the use of my decorations? She's the guru of Krishna. Krishna says she's my praying guru. And Krishna is the original guru in our whole sampradaya. He teaches Brahma, Brahma teaches Vyasadeva, Narada teaches Vyasadeva, and so on. But she's the original guru teaching us how to think. So how to think? What is the use of this body? What is the use of my ornaments? What is the use of my valuable dress if Krishna is not here enjoying it? It has no use except for the pleasure of Krishna. Next. Okay. So Vasanti's, you can show them quickly? Okay. And just a quick one sentence on Manani. Gurudev said, this picture is even better than the Seva Kunj, which he said is his heart. And he said Radharani looks like a Paka Brijbasi there. And then he mentioned how she's scratching her. When a lady in Vedic culture is angry, she scratches the ground with her nails. And Gurudev gave some details here. Like you see the dimple on her, near her elbow, that came from Gurudev. So Vasanti's rushing me on and telling me to quickly show the books we have. If you already have the book and read it 30 times, then get 30 books for 30 friends, relatives, office workers. Our eternal nature, very, very beautiful. Secrets of the Undiscovered Self. And at this moment, I'd like to thank Krishna Das Prabhu of the Krishna Das and Lalita, because he very, very kindly, as you can see that rack, in the back. That was a good rhyme. The stack of the rack in the back. Those are all Krishna Das Prabhu's books. And he's very, very kindly offering all the proceeds to the GVP book sponsorship program. That is, the books have their value, they have their prices. Gopi Gita is even $30 in Bhakti Store Internet. But today, because of the mercy of Bengal and the Bengali temple, and because we want to really share Gurudev's love, it's any amount of books for any donation. You could give, and posters too. You can give less than the value, you can give more than the value, because all the proceeds goes for free books and sponsored or partially sponsored books that create all over the world hundreds of devotees giving out tens of thousands of books in what's called anxiety-less book distribution because of the sponsorship program, and giving free books to really needy places like prisons, 200 prison libraries already, thousands of prisoners, sometimes 15 or 20 prisoners read the same book, and then the chaplain has to write us and ask for another Bhagavad Gita because it's already worn and torn by being read by so many persons. So any number of books and posters and CDs, not Kishori's CDs, but the CDs, that is the audio books of Gurudev spoken by Sri Patridandi Maharaj. And also there's one video of a movie, one video CD of Gurudev's 1989 Braj Mandala Parikrama, where he's speaking in Hindi and Bengali, but there are English subtitles, and it's guaranteed to make you weep. So then Harinam Maha Mantra, to give you so much stimulation and chanting, as we mentioned the speciality of the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this, there's only 25 here. It's the very brand newest book of Srila Gurudev's. It's called Discerning the True Sentiments of the Soul. And it's an expanded version of the very small booklet that was first printed in the late 90s called Gaudiya Vaishnavism versus Sahajiyism, which many of you may know that there's been a big splash of mud, actually, on the internet recently all around the world, because some of the, you'd never know, so-called senior followers of Gurudev and other bona fide Gaudiya Mats are going and joining the Sahajiya Babajis, which Gurudev foretold in one lecture. He said, now that I'm present, it's being Sahajiyism, or cheap imitation of spiritual life, which brings one to hell, is being held back. But when I leave, I do not know what will happen. A dangerous stage is coming, and now it has come. So this book, usually the GVP has published many lecture books of Gurudev, so I can say that they're spoken by him. But this book was not spoken. This book was yelled by Gurudev. You call it the yelling book, and you can see when you see, like Kushari Mohan Prabhu and Sudevi Didi, they started reading it and they could feel that on the pages, where he's showing the difference, establishing the true integrity and glory of our Gaudiya Vaishnav tradition and process, and really showing us the magnificence of it and how fortunate we are, and showing us exactly what to avoid and why. So this is one of the must-reads. Then this is Journey of the Soul, which has tons of paintings, charts, maps, and phenomenal book for newcomers and oldcomers on that very subject. Who am I? Where am I from? Where do I have to go? And how do I get there? And this so many of you love Prabhupada and have come actually from ISKCON. So this is 1991 darshan of Srila Gurudev with several of the GBC members and sannyasis of ISKCON answering their question of a very powerful book, which is also on the back rack, called Ragvarma Chandrika. And he's asking Gurudev questions about that book, which is the moonbeam of showing the light in the darkness, in our darkness of ignorance, how to enter Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotion to Krishna, following in the wake of the associates of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. Very, very exciting. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is asking questions, Borijan, Danodar Swami, I think Giriraj Maharaj as well. And Gurudev is giving the most fabulous answers that anybody could ever give. And this, I've never met anyone who has read this book who doesn't say, I felt like I was on Gurudev's walks with him, including Srila Gurudev's disciple, sannyas disciple Damodar Maharaj. Even he makes announcements about this. So for those of us who didn't get to go, there are Gurudev's walks from all over the world, from 2009, do we have the other years? And 2008, we also have. And if you're sorry you missed them, then you can get to go. And Gopi Geet is a literary, this is also actually darshans with the ISKCON GBC members and Srila Gurudev, because they also asked some questions about Gopi Geet. And it's full of beautiful paintings done by Prabhupada and Gurudev. This one's done by Manjari Dasi of Oregon, a threefold bending form. And lots of line drawings. And this is the love story that frees you from all lust stories. And the best part is that I asked Gurudev in Hawaii, never said I was humble. I asked Gurudev in Hawaii, could you please sing Gopi Geet? Because we want to have you singing, and then we'll put Indian instrumentation in the background. We want to have a CD in the book. So Gurudev said, but there are so many better kirtaniyas, better singers, more melodious than me. I said, maybe, but we need to have it sung by a gopi. So could you please do it? So he did it, and it's really great. And Sripad, who did the instrumentation? Muni Maharaj of Bhubaneswar, he got together his group and kindly did all the Indian instrumentation. And also Gurudev is giving 2 lectures on this CD. One about the glories of Srimati Radhika, and one about this Gopi Geet. And then there's this, which we already talked about. And there's posters, and also, by the mercy of Sripad Bhagavad Maharaj, we also have Srila Prabhupada's very own Bhagavad Gita as it is, in a very small and easy, compact form.
Original unedited.
Original, unedited, which Gurudev is in favor of. Huh? And Srila Prabhupada guided the paintings of that. So, are there any quick questions? Yes. Oh, there are only 2 journeys of the soul. Thanks for asking. Smart of it. Smart to ask. It's quite an amazing book. Plus, I'd like to announce a gift that goes on giving. And also, if you're speaking to someone and trying to cultivate them in Krishna consciousness, if you just get their email address and send it to Vasanti, then even if you forget them, the Hari Katha mailing list never forgets them. We send out 7 one a week, of Srila Gurudev's introductory lectures, very basic. Like I was speaking basic in the beginning with the cycle of birth and death. And then after the 7 weeks, they're promoted to Gurudev's regular Harikatha mailing list, where he's been giving lectures all over the world for, it has his 90s lectures, which we called oldies but goldies, and his touring all over the world lectures. Lectures, darshans, and morning walks. So that's another great gift that you can give to somebody that you really like. Put your own name, if you really like yourself, and any name of friends. So, any other question before we go on to the kirtan? Is there arti here? Or
Yes. Yes.
a quick Australian melody? When Gurudev would hear this Australian melody, just to let you know, he'd hear it from them. One time I sang it and he said, "You ruined the whole thing." But when he'd hear it from them, or you'd hear it from this one god sister of mine named Krishna Premi, he'd actually weep and take his uttariya and wipe his eyes under his glasses. It's very amazing tune, and when those people sing it. So any last questions? Yes. We're leaving on Wednesday to go to Alachua. We'll be in Anjali and Damodar Prabhu's house. So what's the question? Sorry? Yeah. Right. 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 And what's the question?
Look, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure of the question. I hope I got it. But Krishna Prabhu is lamenting the lamentation of devotees everywhere. Of course, it is Gurudev's order that the sannyasis go to new places. But also they stay for a place like hit and run, hallelujah, and then they leave. And then the enthusiasm has a tendency to drop down again until the next preacher comes. Is that what you're saying? So he's asking if somebody can stay, if any preachers can stay, especially I guess he's thinking of New York, and actually inspire regularly the congregation. Is that it? And make a few ashrams.
Okay.
And actually I would like to say that the Ganga Matas, who've